the Mackinac Bridge was built. And so we took her there for the 90th birthday party with all of us there. So whether it's at the cabin in the Upper Peninsula of Michigan or a cabin at Tougaloo State Park, whether it was fishing at Maxwell Game Preserve in Kansas or fishing off the dock at Claremont Place, we loved being with you because you loved life. I will always cherish our final trip for swamp tours at Magnolia Plantation and riding on a horse-drawn carriage through the streets of Charleston. Afterwards, she dug into a huge platter of shrimp, told the waitress exactly what she wanted, which was not on the menu, and oh, how she loved shrimp. She loved good neighborhood parties, and she loved Halloween buffets, partaking of all the various hors d'oeuvres, savoring each flavor. Yes, Rudy, you savored life. My earliest memory is receiving a black turtleneck sweater when I was in junior high. My mom thought it was too risque for a little girl my age. But I loved you for it because you made me feel so grown up. You also taught me a lot about photography on our trip to study Martin Luther. My mom and I went with her, or she went with us, and we loved exploring Venice, taking photos of clothes hanging out on the line outside a window, taking pictures of reflections of buildings in the waters of the canal, the water swirling with the colors of gasoline floating on the surface. You had an eye for beauty, and you enjoyed the creative process in any and all mediums. I am not sure that you can teach art, but you were an encourager. You enjoyed meeting young artists, and you always promoted the arts. Art was the passion of your life, your raison d'être. Even in your 95th year, you were preparing pieces to enter into various shows that upcoming summer, this past summer. I want to thank so many of the artist friends that are here today who helped you in your later years to still be able to participate in hanging shows or in entering them digitally. So AAC friends, Women in Focus friends, and her Gaia group who kept her all going. Also her new friends at Claremont Place, where she had a one-woman show and helped Claremont Place to set up their own art program. If we can learn anything from Ruth, it is that being creative keeps one alive and vibrant. It keeps one going. So thank you, friends of Ruth. In the ICU, you told me to water the plants, and you reached out for the mountains. I had forgotten that the mountain was the UU Retreat and Conference Center. And then you called out to the birds, the lovely birds, feed the birds. You loved nature. So thank you, Rudy, for being part of my life. I will remember with fondness the story you shared at my mom's funeral of two young giggling girls on a hot summer night up on the sleeping porch with the windows open, listening to the clink of billiard balls from the pool hall down the street. I will also remember the story you told about how you put your white hooded lab rat named Alphonse on your date's head to get them to go home early. Does this sound like my aunt? She'd be mad at me if I told you that one. I will cherish your stubborn German streak which I probably have inherited, as we cleaned out your house on Stephen Long Drive in Buckhead, when you would yell at me to not interrupt you while you were thinking. I will miss competitive games of Michigan Rummy, matching and memory games with Jesse and Wyatt, and those fierce games of Rummikubes. I especially now miss the phone calls where you would call me up and ask me to wake you up at 7 a.m., which is 6 a.m. Kansas time, because you had someplace to go the next day. So, Helene Ruth Gogel, it is time to finally say goodbye. You were both saint and sinner, raised well in the German-American Lutheran tradition, but you found your home in Unitarian Universalism. Rest in peace and love. Rudy, you loved life, and life loved you. You were a creative force of nature, showing others the beauty in the world. Thank you, Ruth, for being my Auntie Rudy, my sweet Auntie Rudy. I love you. I miss you.
Thank you so much, Becky. I would love to now invite Melora Furman, who is going to speak on behalf of the long-running Covenant.
As Reverend Taryn said, I'd like to say a few words as a member of her Gaia group, and also as her friend and as a fellow artist. Although some of the Gaia members were unable to make it here this afternoon, I know that they're here in spirit. We so loved Ruth. She always brought her special straightforwardness and experience to our discussions. She thoughtfully prepared for the meetings, and she had wonderful insights, and she told wonderful stories as well about herself and what was going on with her. In fact, when we did the check-in portion of the meeting to talk about what we'd been up to since the last meeting, Ruth was so impressive. When she joined the group, she was in her 80s, and her spirit and creativity and humor were so strong. And she had this wonderful laugh. When something tickled her, out it would ring and would get the rest of us laughing. I also knew Ruth from coordinating the Moravian Love Feast. Ruth organized the reception, and she'd been doing so long before I got involved. She made sure that the cookies and punch were plentiful and the tables were pretty and festive. And she would just go ahead with it, no matter whether we had an interim minister or, the red tablecloths couldn't be found or whatever, obstacle, people didn't want to make homemade cookies anymore. Whatever obstacle, she would just go straight ahead and she would just make sure it got done. Ruth was the kind of person about which one says she was indefatigable. I think that Ruth was a fine and true photographer. That expression where you say a true artist, somebody within whom the creativity just burns. She captured photographic images that had meaning, both visually and in terms of their content. She was a photographic explorer, whether she was outdoors at the edge of a marsh at dawn or squeezing under an industrial staircase to capture its abstract form. If you've seen the show here, or some of her works in the many shows she organized at the gallery in the Cliff Valley building, you may know that many of her abstract photos resulted from photographing through a glass block or a thick glass vase, and so they create a very unique effect. But the best memory I have of Ruth is of a very personal incident. We were in the Cliff Valley's building's social hall, and people were milling around. And I was talking to her and another friend about a certain difficulty in my life. Then, just when I thought the conversation was over, Ruth shared with me an experience in one direct sentence that was so supportive and so kind, it struck just the right note, and it warmed my heart. And that was Ruth, my friend.
Thank you so much, Melora. If you are age 40 or 50 or 60, how do you know who you want to be when you grow up? What does it look like to age gracefully, with agency, independence, a full scope of interests, people who you rely on and people who rely on you, relationships to navigate until the very end? I had the chance to sit with Ruth a little bit in her final days, and she was talking about the mountain, and we were singing Spirit of Life together, which we will sing today. In many ways, Ruth Gogel's presence, Ruth's life, justifies the entire reason for church. For so many of us at UUCA, including me, Ruth sets the standard for how to age gracefully. The fact is, most of us want to be Ruth when we grow up. I know I do. Ruth was absolutely a force of nature in her community, and whatever community could claim her was deeply blessed and benefited tremendously from her participation, because Ruth did not participate passively. She participated meaningfully. She gave her money, her creativity, her full presence, her insights, her companionship, her gifts to the organizations and to the communities and to the people and to the ideas that were most meaningful to her. If she loved something, she showed up for it all the way. Through the power of Ruth's presence and her commitment, she changed us. She changed this congregation, this people. She changed everyone who knew her. She showed up to her Gaia group, this covenant group that met for years to discuss spirituality and growth. She was a master Rummikub, is that how you say it? Rummikub player, and she beat everyone every time, Melora said. At UUCA, yes, she organized the Moravian Love Feast reception, making sure there was abundance of cookies and treats. And she loved the Mountain Retreat Center up in Highlands, and I was in disbelief when we reinvigorated our congregational retreat at the Mountain a few years ago. At age, I think she was 91, she attended. She said, "Of course I would attend the congregational retreat at the Mountain. I hope you don't mind, but I'm just going to do what I want." Goals, as I said earlier, goals. I'm going to do what I want. And she knew what a church should do, what a congregation should do, and she knew how to hold and keep a tradition and keep it alive. There's a photo of the first board of trustees at UUCA's Cliff Valley campus. It's a room full of men in suits and Ruth. And I would bet she was a formidable presence in that room. Ruth did not suffer fools, and she was a bold steward, a bold leader, because Ruth loved UCA, and the way she loved was to be a faithful steward. And sometimes I might even worry about the state of the church, because Ruth is not here now to show others how to lead, how to steward and shepherd a program, how to show up time and time again with steadfast presence, leadership, and love. And she was a great support and cheerleader of mine, and I felt her support every second since I came to UCA. She held the art gallery here for many years, helping to curate shows and doing the work of installing and uninstalling the shows. I mean, she was steadfast. What Ruth loved, Ruth cared for, and did not expect others to care for it as much. I mean, she wanted everyone to show up, but she put in the work herself. Melora told me about how Ruth used to organize an Easter tree. Does anyone remember this? And she would hand make beautiful eggs resembling the beautifully painted eggs that look like the Czech or Hungarian painted Easter eggs. And she would invite people to bring in soaps and toothbrushes and other supplies to put them under the tree and then send them to the Atlanta Home for Battered Women. And at Christmas, she decorated a Christmas tree and hung it with mittens, like the mitten tree, with hats and gloves, also to give to the women's shelter. And when UUCA was having a budget shortfall, Ruth made a very large loan to make up for the shortfall just that year, to get them over the hump. And when Ruth was home during the pandemic and had lost a lot of her mobility, she was a very early adopter of the online worship experience. I mean, she figured out okay, we're going to do Zoom, we're going to do YouTube, like she figured it out. She was watching every Sunday, and Becky told me that when she cleaned out Ruth's apartment, she found notes everywhere responding to the sermons and to the worship services with her own notes and her own feedback and thoughts and then poetry, just always thoughtfully engaging. Such an engaging mind. I can imagine as a CDC biologist who worked on mosquito abatement, that she was probably one of the first women on her team and in her department and in her field. And she looked for strength and community and support in other places. Wherever it did not already exist, she would make it happen herself. And Ruth's presence was delightful. She had a wonderful smile, excellent sense of humor. Melora shared with me about Ruth's remarkable energy and shared with you too. She just kept going, maintaining an active life of creativity and engaged intelligence. And Ruth loved you, her family, her friends, her community. She was a warm and welcoming presence for all of us and held space. Ruth held space for you to be your true self, to come and say whatever it is you were going to say. And she would love you for that, for bringing your authenticity. And I admit that for me, it is unthinkable that she did not get to come into this building. And I know she would have loved it. And she would have been thrilled to see us finally make this a faith home. And Ruth is at home now, in a sense, but we are still here without her, and we miss her. May Ruth's life speak for her, and may her life continue to bless our own. May we keep on sharing our Ruth stories, remembering the things she said and the way her hands felt when she touched them, and the way she would engage so meaningfully. May we hold her in our hearts and continue to aspire to grow up to become like Ruth Gogel. The world we touch will be better if we can live like Ruth lived and love like she loved. Amen. May it be so. Please rise in body or in spirit and join me in singing our hymn number 123, Spirit of Life. The lyrics will be on the screen. shape of justice. Roots hold me close, wings set me free. Spirit of life, come to me, come to me. You may be seated, and please join me now in a time of meditation. I invite you to close your eyes as you are comfortable doing so. And let your consciousness dwell on these words from an unknown source. To live is to take part in the world's venture. To live is to be a partner in that endless creation that goes on from age to age. The life of each of us makes a difference. The world, the course of history, the finely spun web of human love, these are changed forever by every person who lives. How then can a life cease to be? Each life makes its mark on the universe, a mark that neither time nor death shall erase. Each of us changes the world eternally. No life can ever again be as nothing that once has had its part in the world's creation. In the fellowship of love, we never cease to live. It is true there are no final answers to the questions with which death raises in our minds, but there remains the fact of love and the will to say yes to life. Death is real, but so is love. And so we have gathered on this day to speak together of one who we have loved and lost, and to seek in that speaking some clue to that which abides in the midst of all change. We return to our memories and to our love to discover that which triumphs over death. In the fellowship of love, we never cease to live. Amen. And may it be so. At this time, I would love to invite Jesse Worrell, Ruth's great-great-grandnephew, to share an eagle poem with us.
My name is Jesse Worrell. I am Aunt Rudy's great-great-nephew, and Rudy loved eagles, and she collected all of these beautiful eagles and these beautiful clay statues of them, and I got some of them, and that's why I will be telling this poem. The eagle is a winged symbol for the Lakota people because it is seen as the strongest and bravest of all birds. For this reason, the eagle and its feathers are a symbol of what is the highest, bravest, strongest, and holiest. An eagle's feathers are treated with great respect and given to another in honor. They are worn with dignity and pride. When the feathers are held over someone's head, it means the person is brave, or is wished bravery and happiness. To wave it over everyone present means everyone is wished peace, prosperity, and happiness.
And now Wyatt Worrell will come, and who's also Ruth's great-great-grandnephew, will come forward and share an Iroquois prayer with us. And you can.
Good evening. I am Wyatt Worrell, as you can already
Oh,
tell.
it might not be on. Hold on. Oh, it is on. Okay, you just got to speak really close. Yeah, there you go.
Okay.
Yep.
Good evening, everyone. I am the great-great grandnephew of Ruth Gogel. She was a very fond memory, and I loved her very much. And she loved butterflies. I do not remember anything about butterflies in her house, but I'm going to share an Iroquois prayer. Okay. We return thanks to our mother, the earth, which sustains us. We return thanks to the rivers and streams which supply us with water. We return thanks to all herbs which furnish medicines for the cure of our diseases. We return thanks to the moon and stars which have given to us their light when the sun is gone. We return thanks to the sun that has looked upon the earth with a beneficent eye. Lastly, we return thanks to the Great Spirit, in whom is embodied all goodness, and who directs all things for the good of her children. Thank you.
Thanks, Wyatt. In the upcoming months and years, as we notice Ruth's absence, let us strengthen and encourage each other. Let this be a time of continuing to remember and to share feelings and stories about Ruth generously whenever we feel like it comes to our minds or to our hearts. Ruth would have loved this. While she has died, the love she gave away so freely thrives and lives on in the way her family loves, and the way we all who felt held by her love go on to love each other with that same warmth, generosity, stewardship, and care. Love lifts up all things, hopes for all things, endures all things. Love never ends. Won't you please? So here's what's going to happen next. We will rise in body and in spirit. We will sing Blue Boat Home, Ruth's favorite UU hymn. And then we will all walk out to the memorial garden, and we will say a few more words, and then we will all spread some of Ruth in the garden. Okay. All right, so now please rise and join us in singing Ruth's favorite hymn, Blue Boat Home. Though below me I feel no motion, standing on these mountains and plains, far away from the rolling ocean, still my dry land heart can say, I've been sailing home my life now, never harbor or port have I known. The wide universe is the ocean I travel, and the earth is my blue boat home. Sun, my sail, and moon, my rudder. urging me on. Greet the infinite sea before me. Sing the sky my sailor's song. I was born upon the fathoms, never harbor or port have I known. The wide universe is the ocean I travel, and the earth is my blue old home. Okay, so let us process out into the, oh, what's happening? Oh, the chalice. I'm so sorry. Wyatt's going to extinguish our chalice. Come on up. He's excited about this. Sorry. I forget every Sunday. It's not. Uh-oh. You got to hold it for a minute longer. Well done. Yep, and you can put that back. Okay, so let us now process out into the memorial garden, and then we will gather and say a few more words there and spread